Inside the Fox 59 CBS 4 podcast studio, welcome to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. Alongside Mike Chappell and Matt Adams, I'm Dave Griffiths. Appreciate you joining us for another show as the offseason rolls on, and yet the NFL manages to dominate sports discussion, even with the Indy 500 coming this weekend and people trying to cheat their way to the front, allegedly. And the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, and Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese renewing their drama again. Nevertheless, guys, we start our Colts podcast with something that will be relevant in the NFL this year. That is the fact that the tush push lives on. Just a news story minutes old as we tape this podcast. They needed 24 votes, did the NFL and the owners to ban the play that the Philadelphia Eagles have made famous over the past couple seasons. But they reportedly only get 21 or 22.
22 to 10, I think.
Of the 24 needed, just falling a bit short of the Green Bay Packers proposal to ban the tush push. Chap, your reaction to the news that indeed the tush push lives on in the NFL.
For another year.
For at least 1 year.
A little surprised, just because of all the rhetoric leading up to it, was that there was a groundswell to get rid of it. I'm sort of, I go back and forth because, first of all, this has always been one of my soapbox items, is that the league says one of the reasons to get rid of it is injury, the risk of injury. There's absolutely no data that proves that. It is the risk of potential injury. Well, what's that about in a violent sport? And this is a league that just tweaked the kickoff rule to increase kickoffs, which is the most dangerous play in football.
Yep.
Which several years ago, they almost deleted.
Yep.
And this is a league that's going to have an 18-game season. So
yep.
That's where I have a problem with that. The other thing with the tush push, what's really amazing, not that the Eagles are so good at it. Why isn't anybody else not good at it, but hardly even try it?
Yep.
I understand the Eagles have had a great offensive line, and they've got the technique and they've got the quarterback, but this is not rocket science. It's not. So I understand why it's so hard to stop it, but why does no one else even try it? I don't understand it. Maybe you've got an answer for me.
So the Buffalo Bills kind of gave it a shot.
They did
in their game, and it did not. I mean, you can argue about the spot, which is a thing that they're going to do a rule change on.
Right.
But in some key situations where they needed to do the same thing, they were not able to pull it off.
They are losers complaining about losing. That is what is happening. They are losers complaining
get it out of the game.
About losing.
Right. Can't stop it. Ban.
Has there been another play that point afters conversions they altered because
it was basically automatic?
It was 99%, and the
Right.
guys that missed it were just not very good. But has there been another play that they said we can't stop this, we'll just get rid of it? I can't think of one.
I can't either. Not off the top of my head. Like,
so, I don't know.
The rules have been. It's not against any NFL rules what they are doing at all, and they are
to legislate against one team because you're so good at it. What if during the year that Brady had Randy Moss and he had 25 touchdowns?
Mm-hmm.
We got to legislate against the getting mossed.
What if they stopped? What if they said quarterbacks couldn't run when Fran Tarkenton started taking off in the 70s, when Randall Cunningham was going crazy in the early 90s, when Michael Vick in the early 2000s started running, when Vince Young, I'm sure Bill Polian would have liked Vince Young to stop running from time to time if you're a Colts fan and remember some of those Vince Young games, but you don't change the rules just because some teams do something well or one team does something well and every other team can't figure it out. The funny thing to me is, at this owners meeting, when they tabled the discussion before, they brought it back to discussion here in May. Like Jason Kelce, the former Eagles center, who is very much at the center of this tush push, and he's not even there anymore. Somebody else, they have another center right now, and it's working just fine with somebody else. It's not like these guys are the only people who can do it. You can coach other people to do it as well. They've had injuries on their offensive line. Other guys come in. They continue to do it well. But anyway, Kelce was there, like explaining the tush push to the NFL owners at this meeting. Like he went up there for 45 minutes, is the report, and was explaining the basics of the play and how it works and how it is not a greater increase to injury than any other play out there. Like you have guys who can teach this to other people,
Shane
other
Steichen
teams.
is here.
Shane was here.
He was in Philly when all this stuff started.
He's got a quarterback who's a unicorn athlete
and
right
he's got
now.
Quentin Nelson at left guard, and Bernie Ryman's a big guy.
And had Ryan Kelly at center, who's a pretty good player himself.
Right now, I'm not sure how much Ryan Kelly wanted to stick his nose in there like that. I don't know. But the point is, you had a guy, your head coach / coordinator was there. He knows exactly why it works and all that, and the Colts don't run it.
Mm-hmm. And as Nick Sirianni said, he knew that he had a couple votes on his side. He knew he had Shane Steichen. He knew he had Jonathan Gannon, the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, because they were on his staff there for a while. And then they got allegedly 7 other votes to reach 10 and to stop the steal of the tush push from the Philadelphia Eagles. And
the only defense of the tush push is
not getting 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1.
Keep them out of 3rd and 4th and short.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
That too.
Make it 4th and 3.
There you go. There's something else, for crying out loud.
Don't let them get in that position.
My favorite part about this entire thing, guys, is this was proposed by the Green Bay Packers. The rule to get rid of the tush push. The Eagles, right after the ban was scrapped, sent out a tweet of them doing the tush push against the Green Bay Packers and said, push on.
Push on. I almost grabbed the screenshot of that.
Well, if you're watching on Fox 59 now or YouTube, we appreciate you there. And of course, if you continue to go with the more traditional view of taking in your podcast, whether it's on Google Play, Apple iTunes, whatever, to get your podcast, we're grateful for you here, and we hope you subscribe and get us delivered to your podcast listening device as soon as it drops. But there's plenty other things going on with the Colts specifically. We talked to a offensive line this week. We spoke with Reggie Wayne, who was always interesting himself. There are other things going on at the league meetings right now as well that we should touch on, and that is that the owners have approved NFL players to play in the Olympics because the Olympics are adding flag football.
I'm surprised it was 32-0.
32-0. I was also surprised by that. That all NFL owners were willing to give up their players.
Is it like one player per team? Is that? I don't know.
It was one player per team, with the exception of if you have one of those international pathway program players designated on your team, they can play for their national team.
Okay, but this is going to be receivers and DBs, isn't it?
I would think so.
You would think so. Yeah.
It's flag football, so at the very worst, it's linebackers and tight ends, perhaps too.
And the quarterback of God, there's 3 or 4 I can think of, which would be amazing.
Yep.
So I thought with the risk of injury, and again, I'm old enough to remember Robert Edwards. I am, to where
I am too.
A quality running back blows out his knee playing flag football, sand football in the Pro Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So just the risk of injury, but 32-0. This is where again it will be great exposure for the league. The same way the Olympics are for the NBA and golf, which I'm still not a fan of golf and even I'm not a big fan of NBA players, but you have to when everybody else has pro. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But NFL and if you're gonna have flag football, have it lower levels because it's not like the other nations are gonna have professional flag football players, is it?
Right. I don't think so.
So
probably not.
But it's great exposure. I understand that. And this league is all about PR and brand, and there's no bigger, joining of brands than the Olympic rings and NFL Shield.
That's right. That is for sure. And if there's only one player that could be taken from the Colts, who do you think would be maybe a group of 3 players that could be one that is chosen to represent the U.S.?
Josh Downs, Alec Pierce,
Kenny Moore.
I was just say yeah, because that's what you need. You need guys who can run and catch, and guys who can cover guys who run and catch.
Yes, all 3 of those. Not unlikely characters.
And one of the hiccups of this will be is the Summer Olympics, which means it leads right into training camp. So whoever you have do it will have no off season because they'll go from I don't know when they start training for this. I don't know how that works, but I'm a little surprised. But good for the NFL.
They probably won't need to train all that much for the Olympics. You're not going to be drawing up too many plays there.
True. Go down to the car on the corner and turn and
which though you can, like for flag football, like before I was here in Indianapolis, my career took me to Tallahassee, Florida. And in Florida, as it's going to be in Indiana, I believe, girls flag football is a varsity sport down there in the high school ranks. So, I mean, they have coaches, they draw up plays. There are unique things that you can do in flag football that you can't do in NFL football, with the fact that there's basically no offensive line, and you're kind of running around a little bit more, and it's a little bit more helter-skelter, and there's more room on the field. So there are unique things you can do. But
the Colts have got that. They've been supporting or endorsed that.
They have.
How many teams? Is it like 16 or 20 teams now? Throughout the states, South Bend, Fort Wayne. I know Ron Colley locally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's other ones, but so now whether those are high school sports or not, I don't know. I'm just not that up with that yet.
It is going to be. I'm pretty
coming,
sure
it's considered an emerging sport here for the IHSAA.
There you go.
And the more that happens, that's why I'm hesitant with the NFL getting involved. I want to see them really more pursue the other levels. But this is whenever you get the NFL behind you, doggone, it's whether it's the Colts or the Patriots or whoever or the league, you're going to succeed. They're going to give you every chance to succeed as a league.
Yeah, you would think that you would need some sort of feeder system first, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if the NFL gets behind it, then you're going to get your feeder system.
Well, and the feeder system is going to be these high school.
Right.
Yep. For me, the you get a gold medal USA team will have Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Because and nothing else matters because no one else is going to catch him.
Travis Henry can go both ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Travis about his reps.
Yeah. Derrick Henry, you mean?
No,
Travis Henry.
The rookie, Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter. I was about to say, who are you talking about?
But no, Justin Jefferson. I mean, Jamar Chase. I mean, it just
freaks.
You're going to have to. It's going to be an all-star of the skill players.
Yep.
But it'll be fun to watch, and they're just going to crush.
And that's what Americans love most about the Olympics.
Give us
seeing
the gold.
Americans win. Doggone it. That's right. And if they don't win gold, that would be a 1980 Olympics level upset. But not for the good guys, we shall say. There are other votes coming over the next couple days, but there is another proposal that was talking about reseeding the playoffs based on just purely your record. So if a team like the Colts or the Texans were to win the AFC South with a 9-8 record, and the Denver Broncos were to finish second in the AFC West behind the Chiefs. Chiefs have a 13-4 record, and the Broncos are 12-5. Then the Broncos would be seeded higher than the Colts or the Texans in the playoffs would be. But that proposal from the Lions was pulled.
Yeah, they pulled it this morning before they did their meeting.
I just have a hard time believing the owners will vote to give up a home game. If you
give up the importance of the division.
Now, I could see a change of the playoff seedings is where division winners get that first, the home game, and then once the first round's over, then you reseed if there's upsets, so you don't have a lesser record.
But they already do that in the second round. You know. Well, I guess they don't reseed, but the higher seed always hosts.
But it would avoid the wrong team hosting, I guess. I just don't see owners potentially giving up a home game. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it either. And my argument has always been, for better or for worse, like you had the chance to win your division and you didn't, because the current rules as they are, you win your division, you host a game,
right?
And that's just kind of how it's been. And yeah, I think the example last year would have been Minnesota.
They went to
they had to go to LA.
Right.
You know, the Rams won 10 games, Minnesota won 14, but the Lions won 15 games. Right. So they won the division.
That's such an aberration, though.
You know, that doesn't happen often. There was one year several seasons ago, I think a team either won the division at 8-8 or 7-9.
Mm-hmm. The Seahawks have done that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's very, very rare. And again, you had two opportunities to beat your divisional opponent a couple times. You play 6 divisional games. You know, I don't see the use of it.
Right. Is it something to change the rules over? Like you said, Chap, you could maybe take it both ways. The NFL owners don't want to give up a home playoff game, but NFL owners also look at the Vikings ownership. I mean, they don't want to they want to get a home playoff game. They
Right.
figure they've won 14 games, so they've
we
earned
deserve
it.
to host one,
So
right?
that's
and
kind
there's
of
that counter argument.
Yeah, exactly. So I understand both sides of it, but I'm hesitant to change the rules to favor one team if both teams have still accomplished something, if that makes sense to you. 14 wins, huge accomplishment. Winning your division, huge accomplishment in the NFL.
Sure.
And sometimes divisions are better than others. That's just the fact. And that's something that's cyclical in the NFL. It goes up and down. So
except for the AFC South, it's just always
exactly. There was a time when the Titans and the Colts were both 12 and 4 teams for a while there. When Steve
McNairs and Peyton Manning.
Chap's getting a call. We love it when Chap is getting a call in the middle of Colts availabilities.
I apologize.
We always know when someone is trying to ring the Chap phone.
We're trying to figure out my granddaughter's graduation tomorrow at Grand College. So
my daughter is also graduating tomorrow, preschool.
I didn't know they did that.
Well, no, to my everlasting dismay, they do. So.
This is Delaney going from 8th grade to 9th grade from St. Jude to Ron College. I didn't know they did that.
Oh yes, they'll do any chance they get for a graduation ceremony.
Get a cap and gown.
Exactly. So yeah, we're going into kindergarten here at 5 years old, and we have a graduation ceremony from preschool into kindergarten. So
good for the kids.
Great for them.
I think it's great to shine light on the kids.
So. Fantastic. Yes, I agree. Of course. So anyway, let's focus more on the Indianapolis Colts now as we push forward, and we got a chance to really speak to some offensive line members this week. So that's where we will start our discussion. Tony Sperano Jr., offensive line coach, did confirm this week that the Colts will play Matt Gonzalez at right guard this year. That is the plan. It seemed to be going in that direction, as we talked about here on the podcast a couple different times over the past couple weeks.
They've mentioned it, but they sort of hedged on it.
Right.
This is we're going to put him in there and let him play.
We might do that. Well, yes, he's going to be the guy there. And it's notable, Chap, because this was not the plan last year when they had issues at right guard or moving things around. Gonzalez did not move in there at the time. But now they're saying, you get this offseason. This is your position. You're working there. And let's see how it works out. Now, I'm old enough to remember when the Colts did this with Matt Pryor at left tackle, and he was not. It did not work well. No. We'll leave it at that. But there's hope that this scenario will be different. There's obviously a million differences between those two scenarios. Don't get me wrong, but it's going to be, as we kind of expected a bit, Chap. Here, Matt Gonzalez's job to lose here from the start.
I went back and looked. He started 24 games at tackle at Pittsburgh, and 7 or 8 games last year with the Colts, like 3 at left tackle and 4 or 5 at right tackle for Braden Smith. So he may have played 1 snap at guard, I think.
It was all tackle for the most part.
So yeah, and this is it happens so often where you've got a guy who you believe's a tackle, and you move him inside. The Colts drafted Braden Smith back in the day. He was a college tackle, I believe, and they saw him as a guard.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Coach Gouge said different. Dave DeGuglielmo.
When injuries, when they simply ran out of bodies in camp, they said, let's put Braden out there. And Braden's been good.
Yes, very good.
Very good. So, and again, with Braden coming back from his off-season issues, it allows him to move Gonzalez inside. And if Braden hadn't been back, then I'm guessing Gonzalez is at right tackle.
Yeah.
But and this is, and on top of this you got Tanner Bortolini going in at center. So they looked ahead in last year's draft to this possibility. I think everyone knew Ryan Kelly wouldn't be back. Will Fries, I don't know. Maybe they hoped he would be back until they saw what the market was going to be. I mean, the fact that
it stunned all of us, that's for sure.
Yes,
$88 million, I think $44 million is guaranteed for I can't remember what year it was. Was it 2019? Whenever he was a 7th round draft pick.
20. It had to be 20, right?
Maybe
it's a 4-year deal.
Maybe it's 20.
Yeah.
And the last 3 years, he started 31 games. So his advancement's amazing and good for him.
Yeah.
But it creates a hole. And they took precautions last year in the draft, and now they're having to use those players.
Yeah, like my first memory of Will Fries playing significant minutes was the Patriots game in New England. That infamous game with Sam Ellinger when he started
9 sacks, was it?
Yeah, in 22.
2021 draft pick, by the way.
No, 21 draft
pick.
21. Oh yeah. So that'd be 21, 22, 23, 24. Yeah. I can't do math. I was told there would be no math.
Neither can I.
So that in 21 and 22, just remembering him playing in that game and being like, this guy does not have it.
Right.
It reminds you in situations like that A, it takes some guys longer to develop than others. B, development is so important in the NFL. Like these guys come out of college and they are not finished products and large.
Bernard Ryman.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to Denver his rookie year.
Like you cannot throw guys to the wood chipper after a bad performance or two in the NFL. You cannot do it because they can come back and bite you in the end, which also will lead me to the fact, something we'll touch on more later, A.D. Mitchell after last year is not a guy that you can completely give up on now. You have to recognize what was and then develop him into what you still think can be. And like I said, we're going to touch on that a little bit more. So we'll get to AD in a minute. But we mentioned the fact that Matt Gonzalez is going to be right guard, and Tanner Bortolini will be the center as well. What Sperano said about those guys is they both responded well after being pressed into action as rookies. The game wasn't too big for Bortolini, he was talking about in particular there. But the shoes to fill are certainly big. Ryan Kelly was here with the Colts forever. He was a Ryan Grigson draft pick in 2015, I believe it was, and was crucial in terms of locking down or solidifying and organizing and instructing the offensive line for the past decade here in Indianapolis. Now that job falls to, in part, Bortolini. Some of it, the leadership aspect, kind of trickles over to Quentin Nelson as well, because he's been here for a while and he's had the All-Pro nods, the Pro Bowl nods. But nevertheless, the center is still always, no matter where you are, a crucial part of the offensive line. And Bortolini's going to have to step into a leadership role himself here, Chap.
I apologize for not going back and looking at it. But again, Bortolini played because Ryan missed 7 games. He missed 2 early with a neck injury.
He had the neck injury, and then he
missed 5 with he had a meniscus in his right knee. And on the second injury, when he missed 5 games, Bortolini started 3, and then Denny Pinner started. And I don't remember if Bortolini got banged up or if they wanted to go to Pinner.
I thought that he got banged up. Like I thought that he was on the injury report.
I apologize for that. Maybe while you're talking, I'll look it up.
Okay.
But the one thing that Sperano did mention, it was pretty clear that Gonzalez is the right guard.
Mm-hmm.
He is. But he sort of said that he mentioned Denny Pinner at center as well. So that's where there may be more competition. Well, there's competition at both of those spots, but that maybe there's more of an edge for Pinner to be in the competition as well.
Okay. And we've seen Pinner play well at center before.
Right.
Again, I look back to 21 where he won a couple games late when Ryan Kelly was out.
They were 3-0 with him at center that year.
That's right.
Bortolini, by the way, he was concussed.
There it is.
Late in the season.
There you go. Thank you.
So he had to miss some games. So they had to have Pinner fill in there.
Bortolini's it's clear that's what they want. That's what they planned on.
That's why they drafted him, right?
Was a 4th round pick, and and Gonzalez was a 3.
Yep.
And you think a 3 is going to be a starter.
And they traded up to get Gonzalez.
They did.
This wasn't we like him so much we traded down 8 spots.
It's my favorite thing.
Get him.
Yes, my favorite thing to do.
Who would that have been?
Well, there have been multiple.
Are we talking
like
later?
Pick your poison.
We've already mentioned one of those players that we'll get back to later, like I said. But also, you mentioned Bernard Ryman, too. Like, to have the bookends back, to have Ryman and Smith, huge, massive. To have Quentin back, obviously, huge, massive. But you can't let pressure up the middle, as we saw against that Patriots game in 22.
That's the one pressure that quarterbacks hate is pressure in their face.
Yep. And if everyone else is reliable and they're not, well, you're still going to be in trouble.
Right.
So you hope that they can build on that and they can develop from their rookie years.
I don't think you saw anything in their rookie seasons to make you overly concerned.
No, I don't think so either. You're right. Like and that's always encouraging. That nothing was overly discouraging.
And there have been players that you think, oh man, what have they got there? And we'll talk about one of those, I think, in a few minutes.
In a little bit. Quentin Nelson stepping up to the microphone, talked about plenty of things. Glad to have Braden Smith back. As you would expect from Quentin, not one to talk about personal issues for his other friends.
I will
colleagues.
Say, I watched the media availabilities.
Yeah, me too.
And Quentin's was the longest, which Surprised me a lot.
Well, Jonathan Taylor also, he spoke to him, and he's just quick usually.
Yeah, I know, but he spoke for like 5 minutes, and then the other one that they put was Reggie. Reggie spoke for a little more than 7 minutes.
Yep.
But it was almost 10 minutes for Q, and I was just because he's
kept going
a little bit. Yeah, just kept going.
I was there about 3 minutes. Was talking about his feet.
Yeah, I know. And JT also talked about it.
They talked about. I'm not going to get into it, but if you get a chance to watch that, because it's about that they've done some kind of foot therapy or whatever to help avoid injuries and to help their recovery when they are injured.
Yep. And as you look back to 21, where Quentin was in the boot in preseason, that's kind of part of when it started.
And they learned it. I don't want to linger on this for too much, but they kind of learned some of these techniques from Sam Ehlinger.
Quentin said he was watching him warm up one day or loosen up, and he was doing these weird things, and he said, "What are you doing?" And he talked to him about all the things he does for his feet, and JT was talking about one of the things that he thinks is important is he goes barefoot
everywhere,
almost
everywhere, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. He said the only reason I'm wearing these, things he had on, socks and these flip flops, was because he just got off of practice.
Mm-hmm.
He said I'll be barefoot when I get out of here. I'll put shoes on to go home, and I'll be barefoot when I'm at home.
It can strengthen, I'm sure, the tendons, the ligaments, and everything else down there.
He also talked. One of them talked. Is either JT or
after this, I swear we're done talking about feet.
He talked about. He said, like your shoes. Look at your shoes. He said that's not the normal shape of your feet.
They're constricting your toes, man.
Right, your toes are supposed to be spread out, and he said, well, this one's supposed. It was really. It's hard to write a story on it, but to talk to these guys about it just reinforces how one player called it, my body's my temple. Well, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to do absolutely everything and anything if it will help preserve what they've got. If you're a player, I don't care what position, if your feet don't work,
right,
the body doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So I give them credit for all that. It's kind of humorous when they talk about that, but these guys are serious as can be about doing whatever it takes. You can't, there's only so much you can do to limit injuries in the NFL. It just is because. But I think I give these guys credit for doing whatever it takes. And even some, I'm sure their team physician says, yeah, that's not doing you any good. Yeah, but if you believe it does, then it works.
And then Chad Johnson Ochocinco goes out and eats McDonald's every day of his life.
Marvin Harrison.
And some guys are freaks.
Marvin Harrison was like 185. And he, during the season, being from Philly, he had a stand for Tasty Cakes.
Darn right.
And he had these things flown in like every Monday. He's got Tasty Cakes. And Marvin's body fat was like 5%. And in a lot of players, most players probably have nutritionists and all this.
Mm-hmm.
And some guys just eat, and it doesn't impact them.
It's amazing how the human body reacts differently to different guys. And some guys are so meticulous about everything from the soles of their feet to the top of their head.
And the guy that's so meticulous, he walks through the locker room and you see some guy eating a
Tasty Cake
or a quarter pounder to be chased by a Tasty Cake.
Yep, exactly. And you can probably get more Tasty Cakes here in Indiana, as Wawa is now here. Very exciting times. If they ever want to sponsor the
is that a convenience store? Is it a gas station?
Yes.
It's everything, isn't it? I thought it was just a burger place.
No, not at all. You have to stop by. The first one's open in Daleville. The second one's opening tomorrow in Noblesville. Very exciting.
They're not a sponsor of ours.
No, they're not. But they should be.
Maybe we should see if Wawa wants to sponsor.
Reach out to the Colts Blue Zone podcast for sure.
Because it's funny. Obviously, this podcast.
We're way off the rails. Just keep going.
But I'm on the south side, and on Sunday, I was doing some physical therapy for this back surgery I had, and I'm in the pool doing some walking and all this, and some guy says, "Hey," I thought, "Oh crap, what do I do now?" He says, Are you that Colts guy? I said, yeah, he knew me.
Nice.
From the podcast and from being on the radios. His name is Richard. Richard from Waste Management.
Nice.
He's always driving trucks around. He said, just mention me. And we talked for 10 minutes.
Shout out to Richard.
Richard, I call him Richard the Trash Man, but he's Waste Management. So if I see him again over at Voss on the south side, I say, see, I'm plugging you. But it's kind of cool when in the off season when guys stop you and talk, but that's another rabbit hole.
Tell them, about 28 minutes into this week's podcast, we got Richard.
We got Wawa, we got feet, we've got Richard.
Yep,
but we don't got a sponsor.
We got plenty more coming. Hey, you're watching the Colts Blue Zone podcast on Fox 59 now. As I mentioned, talked to Reggie Wayne as well. Reggie kind of came out of the gate saying he wants to see his players develop more as professionals at their craft and at preparation. I don't think I think you can take that as a knock, chap, to they need to be more professional. That's not what he was saying, really. It was about a kind of development as young players, learning the importance of study, of film study, and translating that into game action, which is something that he mentioned that he took some time doing himself as a young player in the NFL. So, if you're looking for guys like Josh Downs and Alec Pierce to take their next steps as guys who are still on their first NFL contract, that would be where you're to look. To look at specific things that teams show on tape and exploit them on game days.
Isn't that maybe the one area or one major area that a young player doesn't understand?
Yeah.
I would think at college, so many times you were just better.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't have to do that much film work and preparation. And in the NFL, that's the good players. They look for that edge, what it takes, and paying attention in meetings, in your position meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And, there were issues with that, like with Anthony Richardson last year. It was probably an immaturity thing.
Right.
And I think maybe that was part of A.D. Mitchell's issues last year, is he just didn't understand what it took to be a pro. This is their job. This is your job, bud. We talked to Riley Leonard about that, and he said, "Hey, Duke and Notre Dame, you're going to classes. We go to classes.
You have to.
We go to classes, and now when you get to be a pro, this is your job. And when you're done at the office, these guys are probably there during the season from 8, 7 till 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you're supposed to go home and take some work home with you. So yeah, I think a lot of the learning is how to be a pro, which takes in so much, including how to prepare during the week.
Mm-hmm. And Pierce certainly has room to grow still, as Reg said, all over the board. And Pierce talked about that earlier this offseason, saying that specifically he wants to get better in certain areas and certain routes that he's not as comfortable with.
Right.
Like we saw the best of Alec Pierce last year. We saw what he can do.
Right.
We saw what the Colts loved so much that they traded down to get him there in the third round, whatever it was of the draft a couple of years ago. Like we saw that he can take the top off defenses, and when you have a quarterback that has an arm to get it to him, pretty important, that he can be a game changer in the NFL. And he wants to be more than that. Like he wants to be more than just the electric guy that catches. I don't know how many catches he had last year, 40-ish. And in order to be better than that, you need to run more routes than that, because you're not going to get hit on 80 chunk plays a year. Like you can be the deep threat receiver and catch 40 balls, obviously. If you are a deep threat receiver and a guy who can run the intermediate and short routes,
break off a long route, and
maybe not as well as Josh Downs, maybe not as well as Michael Pittman.
But you
Jr.
don't want to be a one-trick pony.
Exactly.
That's not what you want.
And that's what it is. That's, again, we can go back to that word, development again, about working on specific quick twitch or technique aspects that make your game better in those different scenarios in order to run the 10-yard dig at least 80% as well as you run the fly or whatever you want to say. So that's what Alec Pierce is working on. Didn't get a lot about Michael Pittman. We kind of focused on other players here in this discussion with Reggie Wayne. Also talked about A.D. Mitchell, and the funny Reggie bit about A.D. Mitchell is we haven't had an argument yet. So that's good.
It's a good thing.
It is. It's a very good thing that there's been no arguments between coach and player here in year two, and that's a bonus. And that Reggie likes the versatility in their room. I agree, but we can get back to what I was saying earlier about A.D. Mitchell. Like I understand why people were disappointed after last year, and I think fans had every right to be, because he's a guy that was a second-round pick in a very hefty wide receivers class with high expectations. A freak athlete, nice RAS score, as you would expect.
And he got open.
And he got open a lot. Exactly. He got open a lot. And he had opportunities to make plays that he did not make at the end of the day. So year two needs to be, I think, like Reggie said at the beginning, about professionalism and about being ready when you're called, because you're not going to be on the field. This is another thing Reggie mentioned all the time. Like, he's backing up Alec Pierce right now.
Mhm.
Like, you're not going to pull Pierce. We just talked about it. He just proved last year that
he got 800 yards worth of passes last year.
Like, we talked last year about that battle between A.D. Mitchell and Alec Pierce throughout the preseason, and that it was a true battle. And Pierce won it,
Right.
and now it's his right now, and he kept it. So he's going to keep it, and Mitchell's going to have to make an impact on the game when he's playing 30%, 20% of snaps out there, and so you have to be focused all the time, so that when you are ready to go, you have to be fully ready to go and be effective, Chap. And that's something that a lot of rookies are going to have to develop. They have to embrace being a role player, so that therefore they can expand their role afterward.
And when you're a guy like Mitchell, you're not going to get the volume that Pitt gets. You're just not. One of the big knocks against Mitchell last year, he had 55 targets, 23 catches.
It's not a good ratio.
It's like 36%.
Yep.
And the things that struck a lot of us is the apparent unwillingness to put himself in danger in bad situations with
alligator arms, it appeared.
Pulling up, that sort of thing.
Not running around, finishing around, and I think that's I'm hoping that's the immaturity about it. I'm sure it was pointed out in the meeting rooms that this is, this is what you have to do. And a receiver, you're going to get hit. You just are. So, but he's got so much talent. How many plays he was open?
Mm-hmm.
He was open. There was one play, I can't think who it was against, but wide open, and he drops a 20-yard completion. Just dropped it. So it's there, but it won't be given to him because he's got people in front of him. He as Richie said, he's behind Alec Pierce right now. He just is.
Mm-hmm. So
I think this, of all the players they've got on this team, the one that's got the most potential to have the old quote breakout season, it's Mitchell. It is. It'll be there for him. But again, he's fourth in the pecking order. He just is.
Yeah.
So and sometimes that's kind of hard to accept.
And you're throwing in Tyler Warren now too, like another weapon on offense that you've got to work into the system somehow. So like you're like I said, your opportunities are going to be few and far between. So you have to be ready when they are there.
But because again, you're not going to get the volume. So when you have fewer chances, you have, and you can say it's fair or not fair. Pitt's got an opportunity to not catch certain passes.
Yeah,
they're going to come back to him.
Yeah.
Well, when you're a Mitchell, you may only get X number of game in a game, or like again 55 in a season. So there's just less room for air or whatever. So I'm really curious because last year during OTAs and during training camp, Mitchell just jumped out at you. He just did, and then it fell off a little bit in the season, which I think it was immaturity. So again, of all the players who could have the breakout type of thing, maybe not volume, but Pierce type plays, it would be him. And the thing on Pierce again, it is the fact that he hasn't developed the other parts of his game. How much of that is that the Colts haven't given him the chance to develop in that areas? I don't know. But there's room for both those guys to grow. I think with Pitt, he's we've seen closer to the finished product. We've seen Pitt maybe at his best, not last year because of the injuries, but we've seen Pitt's going to give you 90, 95 catches and 1,200 yards, and you need more touchdowns, but you kind of know what you've got with him. Everybody else, Josh Downs, holy smokes, he's got so much room to grow. So it's a good room. It lacks. We've talked about it lacks that top end guy that you talk about in the offseason. You like to see him go after. But I like the room, and if anyone can get the best out of this group, it's Reggie Wayne.
And the coaching staff needs to put these guys in positions to succeed too. And we've talked about this before here on the podcast about Shane Steichen loving his plays and stressing that more than players sometimes. And like you look back to the end of the 23 season about going to Tyler Goodson instead of Jonathan Taylor when your season is on the line. Like in important moments, you would expect Michael Pittman Jr. to get the ball. Like put A.D. Mitchell in situations where where he can succeed. Try as much as possible. There are times when you're going to get the ball, regardless of the situation, and I understand that. But try if you're in the coaching staff and you're trying to develop young players and give them confidence after a season that they didn't have a lot. Like, don't throw to him on 4th and 5, when early in the year. Try not to.
Or don't have him throw a double pass.
And don't throw a double pass in a game that you have to have in a clutch situation where the other team just scored, and you're trying to get the momentum back.
And that's not, well, don't do that because it didn't work. It was like, don't do that because you're a key component in that play hasn't really come through for you.
Hasn't earned the right to make that play yet,
Hasn't earned the right to make that mistake yet.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
So, but and again, I think to some degree they've really been hamstrung by the players they've had and the quarterbacks and all that. But it's still, the whole thing about the NFL is maximize your strengths and limit your weaknesses. Don't put guys in position to fail. Don't have Dallas Clark trying to block Mario Williams. It doesn't work.
Speaking of strengths on the team, Jonathan Taylor would certainly be one of those as one of the top running backs in the NFL. Had himself another tremendous season last year, if you ignore dropping the ball at the 1-yard line, which you can kind of forgive JT for that.
There's always a caveat, but it's a big one.
But yeah, exactly. It was a massive mistake. But like, you go into this year, if you're a Colts fan, like, it's in the past. Don't freaking do it again.
Right.
But with A.D. Mitchell, it's, well, can you do something different? Because we haven't seen you do anything different. So that's kind of what we were talking about a second ago. Like, JT has earned the right to make a mistake and get a little leeway from the fans after that. So
maybe not that mistake.
We prefer not that mistake.
See, that's
exactly.
just like,
I know. I get it.
There were so many times he makes a Pro Bowl and you put on social media. Yeah, but how about that fumble? Well, I'm thinking you can't get past that, but you have to get past it.
Absolutely.
We have seen my biggest gripe about the way things have gone the last, whatever, been 4 or 5 years, is that they are wasting an all-pro running back. It still blows my mind that a guy can rush for 1,800 yards and 20-some touchdowns and not make the playoffs. That's really hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a good season last year. So this is, like, since he's been in the league, did he come in 20?
In 20, yes. He was in the 20 draft along with Pitt.
He's the second leading rusher in the league behind
Derrick Henry,
an alien.
Right.
So in total yards and yards per game. So this is a quality running back. He is. He's got limitations, but doggone it, if he's healthy for 15 games, he's going to give you a top 5 running attack.
Yeah.
So the parts around him have to work as well.
And it helps to have a good offensive line in front of him. And JT thinks they have a lot of juice on offense this year. He talked about Tyler Warren, talked about being attuned to detail. He made the Jack Doyle comparison, which everyone has thrown around from time to time already, just because he's the most recent good tight end that the Colts have had, Or I guess Eric Ebron certainly was too, and that's about at the same time frame. But Ebron left, I think, before Doyle left. Doyle had 1 or 2 more years after
Doyle
Ebron
left
was done.
after 21.
Yeah, so Ebron left after 20 or halfay through 20.
Yeah,
perhaps.
he had 1 year.
Yes, he did.
We experienced the Eric Ebron era.
So he might have been the 19 year that he left, because it was 18 that he had the great year with Andrew Luck.
Right.
About Jonathan Taylor specifically. He also talked about feet, and so we don't need to get further into feet. We don't need to do that.
Yeah, we're footed out.
No, so we are. Also, like Daniel Jones, he's a true pro and recognized his athleticism.
He said he was surprised. He said, I'd heard about the athleticism, but then I saw him, and more so.
Sneaky athletic.
Boy, that's a phrase that can get you in
loaded
trouble.
phrase, perhaps a loaded phrase. So we'll leave it at that. And if you know exactly what that refers to, well, then props to you. He is athletic though. I think that's the point, is that he's a quarterback that you have to watch out for breaking the pocket. You have to watch out for running down the field. He has done damage with his legs before, and he could certainly do it again. He's not at the level of Anthony Richardson in terms of the unicorn athletic freaky stuff that he did at the combine and we have seen throughout his career so far. But he is not a guy that's just going to stand in the pocket and take his lumps. He can get out of there and do some damage with his arm that way.
These guys have got the two quarterbacks who hold their team's rushing record for a quarterback. Jones did it with the Giants, and then AR here.
How about
and
that?
AR did it within like a half a season.
That's all he's played in 2 seasons.
That's another rabbit hole we don't need to go
Exactly.
down to.
We've done that plenty already. So, and I'm sure we'll do plenty more. But like everyone right now is saying the right things, kind of about the quarterback battle. Because right now there's nothing you can analyze in the quarterback battle.
And there won't be. We'll get it. We get first look, I think, at practice next week, I believe it is. The next 2 weeks we get 1 day each to watch. Which, what do you see? Then we get the 3-day or 2.5 day mandatory mini camp in June.
Right.
We'll have I guess an impression of what they're going to do, but until they get to training camp, nothing else is really going to be definitive.
Right. And you're going to want to see, like we talked about last week, preseason games. So you want to see them in these first, second, maybe even third preseason games, battling it out before you make a decision, because it shouldn't just be one preseason game and then rubber stamp someone.
2 preseason games. We'll say a preseason game and maybe that controlled scrimmage. I'm sure they have a controlled scrimmage. It'll be either against the Packers here or in Cincinnati, like they did last year. So, and that scrimmage takes place really of the game itself.
Just don't run the tush push against the Packers; they might get upset with it.
Wouldn't you run it just to run it?
Like the Eagles, they play on Monday Night Football in November this year. The Packers and the Eagles. If the first play from the Eagles offense is not a tush push, I will be very disappointed. Or at least if they line up like that and then go into a normal formation.
Shane will try to run some plays to where there will be a 3rd and 1.
Mm-hmm.
Just because.
I would love for Shane to
go down after a 6-yard run to make sure it's 3rd and 1.
Yes.
Because we're going to run this.
Mm-hmm. That'd be exceptional.
You said run it on 1st and 10, first play of the game.
Yeah, darn right.
They're going to pick up 4 yards.
Yeah, they should. They absolutely should.
Shane would do that.
I would love it.
Do that.
I would love it.
I'm sorry. I mean, Nick would do that.
Yes. I knew what you were saying. Yeah.
Nick would do that, and
I think they both would.
Yeah, Shane might do it too.
Yeah, but Nick's got that ornery in him.
He does.
More than Shane does.
Which has certainly endeared him to the Philadelphia faithful.
What's that? He got an extension.
He did.
Didn't he?
Nick Sirianni got an extension there in Philadelphia. So how quick the tide turns.
They tried to
all good vibes in Philly right now.
That's what Philly does, man. Like if you're not succeeding, they're going to try to run you out of town. And then if you rally, you've never been supported better by any fan base in your life.
For you.
Exactly, completely. And that's how I grew up. Like if the team that you love is not performing, then you let them know it, for crying out loud. And the guys who can't handle that, well, they can get out. That's fine. That's fine. They can leave. But Sirianni can handle that. He's proven that he can.
He stirs it. He says, "Bring it on."
The other guys in the locker room have proved that they can handle that and bounce back from mistakes and problems and be better and want to win there in that place because the fans genuinely care. As you've said many times, Chap, the worst is apathy. An apathetic fan base is the worst. So even if there is some vitriol, that's not the worst thing in the world.
It takes some time for fans to get to apathy, and it takes longer to get them back.
Yep.
You'd rather have them yelling at you and cussing at you, because if you win the next week, then they're cheering for you. It drives people crazy, but as long as fans care, you're okay.
The Colts have picked up defensive tackle Eric Johnson II from waivers from the New England Patriots. If that's a name you recognize, it is because he was the Colts' 5th-round pick in 2022 out of Missouri State. He played in 22 games for the Colts in 2 seasons, 22, which I don't remember any of that season, and 23 before the team waived him there in 2024. Exactly.
They beat the Kansas City Chiefs early in the season.
There you go. Yeah, it's the one game I do remember right here. Matt Ryan led them to a ferocious victory inside Lucas Oil Stadium over the reigning Super Bowl champions, I believe.
And then everything went to
you know where, and you know how quickly.
We don't talk about the rest of that season.
Exactly. Other roster moves, the Colts waived safety Marcel Dabo, signed as a free agent in 2022. He's been in the practice squad a long time. He's actually a guy, Matt, you kind of made you alluded to his situation earlier when you were talking about the International Pathway Program. Yeah. Dabo, native German, was in the International Pathway Program. Basically,
3 years, two or three.
Yeah, I think they signed him in 2022.
Yeah, so that's probably how long you're allowed to be in the program. I think
so.
I bet the Colts tried to exhaust that eligibility because you get an extra roster spot basically.
Right. Yep.
And you're able to keep him on the roster.
You can elevate that up a few times during the year, so it's a useful thing to have.
Right. And Dabo did not really see much if any, time on the field, but he is gone. Maximilian Mang, a 6'6" tight end, 263-pound man who played
from
Syracuse University.
You need to have a little drum roll thing where you can hit the button.
I put eye roll in parentheses on the.
We just need a button that can play the fight song over there. We need a soundboard here on the Colts Blue Zone Podcast.
A picture of Otto.
I need one in front of me so I can do what I want at any time. But he's signed as an undrafted free agent, and he's being designated as the exempt international player on the Colts roster right now because he is also from Germany and will be going back home. Likely
came through the German system and was it club sports or whatever it is.
Yep.
And he is a blocker. I think he had 6 or 8 catches at Syracuse.
That's right. He is so he was not a big offensive threat. He's not your Tyler Warren.
This is one of the good things the NFL does where it gives you the exemption to let these guys develop.
Exactly. And and that's what the Colts did years ago with Mo Alley Cox. And they were curious what he would develop into as a basketball player. No.
Right.
From VCU. But yeah, you're right. Not
a developmental player.
Exactly.
Right.
So he's similar in that vein.
And it worked. If you've got the right people and you get the right player to come in here, it's going to work.
How many contracts has Mo Alley Cox earned with the Colts? It's not the Jack Doyle level contract, but you've still earned multiple, even to their 1-year NFL contracts, for crying out loud.
I mean, we've joked about it every year.
All right?
Yeah. This is the year that Mo's not going to come back on the team.
Is Mo gone? No.
He's like the third or fourth longest tenured Colt.
Yep. So you got him. You got Luke Rhodes is number 1. I know that.
Grover Stewart.
And Grover Stewart's up there. Was Kenny
also
Moore
Rigoberto
back there? Rigo was about that range.
So and they don't keep you around because they like you and you're a fun guy. So
they might like you, but that's not why they keep you. Yeah.
Right. But the fact that they bring guys back is like with Jack Doyle. I still said he's one of the biggest stories that's come through here because he got 2 nice free agent contracts for a guy who wasn't drafted.
Yep.
So if you've got value, and that's one thing again the Colts have stressed. A lot of teams do, but these guys stress is if you can play, they'll find a place for you.
Mm-hmm.
So good for these guys.
You might see some more contracts later in the summer as well. The Colts are never done with the process of roster building.
Well, they've got 1 draft pick. They got JT to get done.
Still need Tui Molowau to get drafted.
Not Taylor, but the defensive
and
Tui Molowau. Oh, I almost had it. Tui Molowau. There we go.
I'll be driving home and I can say it, and then when I have to do it on the air.
My coworker David can attest to the fact that I have been practicing that, and I still screwed it up.
Tui Molowau.
But no, I told you whenever I type it, it still looks wrong. But that'll get done. It has to. It has.
Yes.
Because they're dealing with guaranteed money and all that stuff. I still think they'll come out of here and they'll sign a veteran somewhere. Lineman, safety, linebacker.
Not like they can say until they're blue in the face that you don't need as many linebackers as you have before in the past. But you need some.
You still got to have some on the rosters, guys.
So, but I think that's one of the values of off-season of the off-season workouts is yes, it's to get your team ready, but it's also to find out where are we deficient. Where are we? Not that we've got bodies, but where do we need help? And in the past, they brought in back in the day the Mike Adams because they just didn't have the right people. I thought maybe there's a chance to bring Julian Blackman back. I don't think so. I just don't.
Not by this point. I thought maybe at one point that there was a chance.
But I do think that there needs to be a linebacker not here yet. I would think a safety not here yet. And those guys are out there.
Yep, and they're always out there, waiting for an opportunity, waiting for the call. And perhaps the Indianapolis Colts are the ones that are going to give them that call at some point. So we do appreciate you listening here to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. If you've been watching on YouTube or on Fox 59 Now, especially thank you there for if you're curious about Fox 59 Now, download it on Fire TV, on Apple TV, on Roku. Those are your 3 options right there. And I finally learned them after a couple weeks of kind of stumbling through them. Appreciate it. And as I said before, if you are listening in the traditional way, get us subscribed, and we will be delivered to your podcast listening device as soon as it drops. Whether it's Wednesday or Thursday, we kind of bounce back and forth on that, but just know it'll be middle of the week sometime is the typical time, unless emergency podcasts are necessary. And you hope not too many of those are necessary, to be honest. You hope for, especially in the offseason, for some continual, just slow trickles of information.
News in the offseason generally is not
Exactly. Breaking news
is bad news.
Not the best thing.
Right.
So we hope to avoid those things here on the Colts Blue Zone podcast. But anyway, you can follow us all on Twitter at Colts Blue Zone. Matt is at Statomati. Mike is at mchapel51. You can read all his work online, fox59.com, cbs4indy.com. I'm Dave Griffiths at DaveG_sports. We'll see you next week on the Colts Blue Zone podcast.